Welcome to the It Takes a Village podcast by Village Bank, where we bring leaders with expertise in finance, accounting, entrepreneurship, leadership, and branding into our village to help entrepreneurs like you in our community. As an entrepreneur's bank, we hear all the time that you want to know more about the financial nuances of starting and running a business. These questions are profoundly important and can be incredibly stressful. That's why we're inviting prominent leaders and friends of our village to weigh in and build a village of answers and connections on the It Takes a Village podcast. Thank you for joining us. Today we're talking to Liz Giorgi, CEO and co-founder of Soona Studios, about what meaningful content looks like for your business today. Creating content that represents your business and your brand can be challenging, but it will help you build a village of brand loyalists who stick with you through times of dramatic change and evolution. This episode was recorded during a live webinar event.
Liz, it's so awesome to finally sit down with you and get to know you a little better. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I want you to talk about your business, Soona, because I'm still trying to figure it all out and still trying to figure out how you guys, A, were able to pivot so quickly over the last 6 months, but then B, tell me what you guys do, what you did, and how you do it differently now.
Yeah. Well, at its core, Soona is a fast casual content studio. What that means to us is we make it possible for brands to get professional photo and video for an affordable price and very quickly. We always deliver in 24 hours. And we've been doing that since our launch in studio stores. We have a studio store in Minneapolis, where we're from, and then we have a studio store in Denver, Colorado. And the truth is that COVID very quickly caused us to shutter those stores and try to pivot. And so we still do the same thing. We still offer professional photo and video, but now we offer it virtually. So we do online virtual shoots that people can attend remotely. We've definitely made some changes, but at heart, we're still doing the same innovative things and trying to make it possible for brands to create great stuff.
Was it scary to put 24 hours out, to make that promise?
You know what? It's so interesting. I think my co-founder, Haley, and I, we at the beginning said, we want to do something that is so much better than the current solution that it doesn't feel real. And so 24 hours was kind of that feels like it's big and bold enough. But what's interesting is that once you put something that big and bold out into the world, you've got to work backwards to make it happen. And yes, it was very difficult to figure out how to make that happen. I'm grateful that we have such a talented team who's worked so hard to make it a reality and that we're able to deliver on that promise every day. I'm so proud of what they do. Part of why we started Soona, part of why my co-founder and I were really excited about this idea is we have both worked in production for a really long time. So Haley was a professional animator for over a decade, and I was working in television production for a while, then moved over into advertising production. And what we both knew and saw was that the need for telling your story visually online was just growing exponentially over the course of our careers. And if you look at around 2014, 2015, we really felt like that was when it was starting to hit a fever pitch of people are just wanting so much content. And it was actually around 2017 that we started ideating on this idea of what is going to be the next generation of content creation. You know, we're all making content with our devices. We're all making content with our agencies. We're all making content with our marketing teams. We launched our first store in April of 2019. So, we have not been around that long. But my co-founder and I both had this idea of, listen, just because we're living in a digital communication age doesn't mean that we don't want an in-person engagement with people, especially when we're thinking about something like getting a great new headshot, or if you want to bring in your team and get a new team photo. There are so many opportunities in our day-to-day business lives where human interaction is an essential part of the business. And so why I keep coming back to that is there will be a point when this is getting better and that there is a vaccine and there are things that we're doing to move forward. And the hunger and the desire that we're going to have real experiences, to connect with each other, to feel good about what we're doing in the world, that is all building up. And, you know, you have to have that belief that making things easy, making things accessible is still valuable. Just like the example that you've given, is that it's all about ease and convenience. And I really think that that is something that I've held on to during this time.
When it becomes something personal and important to you, you take the time to engage and meet. And I think that that's where you're spot on with that retail piece of your business, because your brand and your image is everything. And it has to be consistent today. You know, it has to be authentic and transparent, and it has to really talk about, it has to describe who you are. And it's so personal for people. You know, I'll, you know, talk to our team as well sometimes about things we've written or things we're doing, because it's so important that we get it right. And it drives home to what our values are every single time. In that in-person piece, I can't tell you how important it is when it talks about brand or image, or when it's about money, right? It's their family's personal experiences. It's who they're going to deal with as they grow their business.
100%. I think one of the things that has been very real for us during this time is that we have to acknowledge that we are all in a waiting mode. We're all kind of going, when am I going to get the opportunity to sit down with a business partner or get to see a customer again? Or, you know, all these things have really evolved, and there is an absolute desire building up. And so how can you then really try to bring those in-person aspects to your communication, to bring the parts of your personality as a brand or as an organization to life online, so that people keep remembering you, keep remembering how great their experience was with you. And that is a skill and that is a talent, but it is something that we can all do. It's something that we can all look at our brands and say, what are 2 or 3 special things that we've done in person that we can provide online that might be valuable for people? And so one of the things that we're doing right now is we're planning some of our webinars for the end of the year on content for Q4 and holiday, when we don't know if people are going to be able to go shopping in a traditional way this year, right? So how can we say, okay, we know you guys rely on us for inspiration. We know you rely on us to really inspire how your content's going to be created, what your new ads are going to be. And so how can we be there for you, even if it's not an event like we would have done in the past, but it's online like we're doing here today. And so I think continually thinking about how you can be part of your customer's life, how you can be helpful to them, even if it isn't in the exact same format that it's been done in the past.
I don't know how you feel about this, but sometimes I think that your online presence is almost not more important, but just as vital as who you are when you walk in the room, right? Or who the bank is when they walk in the front door, because that's the part that's constantly in their face, right? It's the part that you're constantly seeing, whether it's Google Analytics, driving, for us it'd be online banking, et cetera. So I can't agree with you more. I think that's so important. So, you know, there's a small company just getting started or already has a reputation out there that maybe they want to change a little. They want to showcase who they are online now. What does that cost? How much of a budget is it as a percentage?
Yeah, well, it depends on your industry, but let's just talk about the industries that we work with, which are people who are either running an online store or they're selling themselves and their services. So one of the things that we really try to emphasize at our company is affordability, and that you don't have to spend as much as you think you have to spend. So a common metric that we see in the startup world is 5 to 15% of your revenue should be your marketing spend or your content spend. And that's a lot. I mean, depending on the size of your business, 5 to 15% is a sizable chunk. And so what we've tried to say is, let's do less, but have it mean more. And part of what I mean by that is, especially at Soona, you know, we could post content 20 times a day, but we kind of try to post only when we feel like we have something really unique to offer, or when we feel like there is something that we are uniquely capable of saying or sharing with the world. I think one of the things that businesses sometimes do wrong is they say, oh, it's Tuesday at 2 o'clock. I need to post something. And you get into the habit of saying, I'm going to post at a certain day and a certain time. Instead, it's a simple reframe. how do I tell my story and how do I share what my business is doing when it's meaningful and valuable to both us and the customer? And that often doesn't happen at a dedicated time at Tuesday at 2:00, right? It often happens when you're launching something new or when you're thinking about something that you might be launching in the future, or you've just had a great customer case study that really speaks to the value proposition of your business. And so just keeping in mind that those moments of content should come from a place of authentic engagement. I think one of the things I'm uniquely capable of explaining is how do you think about creating something that adds value to the business and not over engineering it or over complicating it. So there's really three things you should be thinking about. One is, what is going to provide the most clarity to my end customer? So when you're structuring your shoot, really think about what are the 3 or 4 assets that are going to provide the most clarity. And sometimes that's just a simple e-com photo. Usually if you're maybe in the service industry or you're selling yourself, for example, maybe you are a real estate agent. What's going to provide the most clarity is a beautiful photo of your face and how friendly you are and those things. So really make a shot list that is based on what's going to provide the most clarity to your customer. The second thing I want you to be thinking about is, what do I need these assets to do? So, I think that is oftentimes the question that's missing for people. And sometimes you just need those assets to fill content on your website or fill space on your website. But other times the assets that you need perhaps need to go in your Facebook ads, or they need to go in your Instagram ads. And so understanding what you need those assets to do will inform what kind of content you should be creating and where you should be investing. So let's use the example of, we do a ton of Instagram ads. It's one of the biggest categories of our business. And those photos need to be either square or they need to be rectangular. They do not need to be horizontal. So if you're just thinking about your Instagram feed, you want them to be this way, not this way, right? So think about, if I need those to go on Instagram, then I need to not be thinking about having a long kitchen with 20 things across the countertop, because that's not going to show up beautifully in my feed. So what I need is something that's going to be more vertical, that's going to be more capable of being shared on social media. Those are the things you want to be thinking about in terms of setting, in terms of backdrops, in terms of props, and what you want to be doing with your images. So really think about where those content pieces are going to land and what you need them to do. And then the final thing I want you to be thinking about is, what is my desired ROI? So I love the real question about ROI, because I think sometimes it's the thing that we forget. We all go, oh my God, I just want to get this, photo shoot done. I just need more assets. But desired ROI can be anything from, I just want to build brand awareness, to I want to get 3 new customers, to I want to sell $1,000 worth of this product. Understanding your ROI will actually allow you to then say, what is the necessary budget then I have to spend to get to that ROI? So if you have $1,000 and you want to make $1,000, you probably at most want to spend $100 on assets. And so that's where Soona fits in. If you're talking about $100,000 in ROI, then maybe you're going to go and hire a full service production company to solve those problems for you. So that's how I think about a shoot. That's how I plan my creative. And that's how I advise others to plan their creative as well.
I teach this class at Graduate School of Banking in Madison, where there's always this huge disconnect between president, CEO of a bank and marketing, sales of the bank, right? And the ROI piece is always the piece that's missing. Oh, we sent out X and 10 people looked at it, 110 people, 1,010 people looked at it. And I was like, okay, but how many customers did we get from it? I know that you had to build brand, but I want to know how many customers, how many products, what's average size of relationship, what types of customer, that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about at the board level. And there's steps to get there. So being really transparent about what the expectation is, and then the time, the money, the investment, right? The 5 to 15%, and the time it's going to take to get there, and what we have to do to build that brand to get there, and how direct is that message. I think that that's so powerful, because a lot of times there is a big disconnect between, we're going to do Facebook campaign. Well, what does that mean? Like, let's talk about the guts of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just because I think it's cool doesn't mean it's cool, right? Doesn't mean it's going to have the return that it has.
And sometimes content, one of the things that, this session is called meaningful content creation, right? So one of the things I like to remind people of is content doesn't always have to mean an expensive photo shoot. It doesn't always have to mean a really, big production. Sometimes what meaningful content means, especially, in our business, is solving a problem for someone. Hi,
Yes.
These are the top 3 FAQs that we have from our customers. Let's put together a really quick blog post. Sometimes meaningful content means sharing your organization's stance on a political issue or something that's going on in the news and taking time to do that. So just remember that this mindset, and this really comes back to breaking your mindset that content happens at 2:00 on Tuesday, and opening yourselves up as a marketing organization or as a founder or as a business owner to this idea of marketing happens when I have something valuable to contribute to the dialogue. That generates more opportunity, and it becomes less about, oh my God, we have to spend $10,000 on this photo shoot. And it becomes more about, where can I add value for my customer? Where can I contribute meaningfully so that they feel a connection and a desire to work with us?
And one piece that we have found so valuable at the bank in hiring and acquiring new clients has been really sharing our village values online. And then, not perfect pictures, not necessarily, it's quotes, it's stories about who we are, who our families are, who our village is, things that our village goes through, how we support Main Street during PPP loans and COVID. I think it's so important that when you talk about the meaningful content, I'm really, really passionate about that piece of it, of really sharing who you are as a person, because guess what? That's what it's going to be like to work together too. I mean, it really is.
I am, I think, fairly well known on the internet for being outspoken. I don't like prevent myself from saying what I really think. And somebody asked me recently, like, how do your investors feel about the fact that you are so open and honest? And I think one of the things that I want to really encourage people to think about is, if you aren't open and honest in your relationships in person, it's a lot harder to be open and honest on the internet. So because all these people know who I am, they know exactly what I think. I don't pull punches with them in real life, in interpersonal relationship. It's so much easier to be exactly who I am on the internet because there's no surprises. It's not like I'm one person in real life and then I'm another person on the internet. I'm the same person, I think. And a lot of people, I think, are so afraid to candidly and clearly share how they really feel with other people. And it's actually a betrayal of their own insight and their own perspective. And I think that's one thing that I've been noodling on how to talk about more, because I don't think it's that profound. It's just a very quick hack towards feeling more freedom for yourself in everything that you're doing online. Do less and have what you post mean something.
Yep.
So just give yourself, I always call it the permission slip. When I'm really struggling with something, or when I'm feeling like I'm not creating permission for myself to try something, just take out your notebook and write, I give myself permission to do less on social media and have it mean more when I do post. That's it.
That is good. I'm like writing stuff down that you're saying. This has been really fun. I appreciate your tenacity, your boldness, your style, your leadership style. It's really energizing, and it's important. It's really important. So I really appreciate you being here with us today.
Thanks for joining us on It Takes a Village, hosted by Alicia Webb. If you liked what you heard today and want to hear more, follow us on social media at Village Bank Online on Facebook and Instagram, and Village Banking on Twitter.